Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Medieval Reader. So today I wanted to make my final video on Orlando Furioso by Ariosto. This was a really long poem, but I enjoyed every minute of it. It was very engrossing, and I'm very glad that people recommended this work to me, because now I want to read other works of the Italian Renaissance, and also the satires of Ariosto. So I look forward to reading more about this work and others. So I wanted to talk about a few things that stood out to me in this last section. The theme of prophecy returns again with Rinaldo, who enters this castle, and in the castle there are statues in honor of a number of historical figures. Well, to us they're historical, but they were Ariosto's contemporaries. So once again you see how Ariosto celebrates his own age by pretending that there are these prophecies that will be fulfilled in the future of course being Ariosto's contemporary era. So there is a statue of Castiglione, who wrote the Book of the Courtier. There's Lucrezia Borgia, and there is Pietro Bembo, who was an Italian poet. So you have a lot of these great names that we would associate with the Italian Renaissance today, memorialized in these statues that Rinaldo sees in this castle. But it's also in this castle where he is tempted to figure out whether his wife, yes, you heard that right, Rinaldo's wife is being unfaithful to him. Because I didn't know this, but Rinaldo evidently has a wife named Clarice. So this whole time, Rinaldo is interested in Angelica up until the very end, when I believe he finally drinks the correct potion that makes him stop chasing after Angelica, who anyway is gone with this other guy. He's had a wife the entire time. And so this man in the castle, he is a knight, and he basically just says that this potion will tell Rinaldo whether his wife has been faithful or not. So if she's been unfaithful, he will learn. And Rinaldo decides that he's not going to drink the potion, because he believes that if he drinks the potion, that he is responsible for whatever he discovers, that it's going to potentially ruin his life. And so once Rinaldo decides that he's not going to drink the potion, the knight tells him that he'd received it from Melissa, and that unfortunately he drunk the potion and realized that his wife had been unfaithful to him. So now he was trying to pass on this misfortune, and Rinaldo was like the only person who had refused to drink the potion. So this knight, who is a Mantuan knight, he had been tempted by Melissa, who for the most part, I think throughout this poem, Melissa has been a force for good. She has been the one who has helped Ruggiero and Bradamante, and just a lot of the heroes in this epic have received support from Melissa. But it seems like Melissa is more of an ambiguous character, because it is because of Melissa's potion this Mantuan knight is depressed. You know, it's not Melissa's fault, because after all, the knight's wife cheating on him is not the sorceress's fault at all. But the fact that the knight presents this as a temptation really puts Melissa in a more morally ambiguous light. So what had happened is that the knight had drunk the potion, he realizes that his wife has been unfaithful, and he knows who she's been unfaithful with, and so Melissa helps him transform into the likeness of her lover, and he then gives a bunch of jewels and, wealth to his wife. And of course the woman, thinking that that's her lover, falls for it. And then the spell is lifted, and she realizes that her husband has been tricking her, and she's very angry, and she basically just leaves him for her lover because she just prefers him. And so this whole time the knight had thought that getting all of this help from Melissa would have helped him get his wife back, or to, catch her in the act and therefore guilt her into going back to her husband. And she was just horrified that her husband wouldn't trust her. And so she goes off with her lover anyway. And Ronaldo says, well, yeah, it was your fault. He tells the knight, it was your fault that you put your wife to the test like that, and it is because of this that you deserve what happened to you. So this is what Ronaldo tells the Mantuan knight. Spirits far sturdier have been driven to worse iniquities for less. How many men have you heard mentioned who have betrayed master or comrades for gold? If you were anxious to see her resist, you should not have assailed her with such brutal weapons. Do you not realize that neither marble nor the hardest steel will stand up to gold? I think you behaved worse in tempting her than she did in succumbing so soon. Had she put as great inducements in your way, I know not whether you would have proved any stronger. So Ronaldo not only blames the knight for distrusting his wife and drinking the potion and then transforming himself into her lover, but that he tried to win his wife with jewels, and knowing that, of course, she was going to fall for it. So in a way, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. What I think is really interesting is that, once again, Ariosto blames the man for his disappointment in the relationship. Okay, so now that we have finished this part, let's just talk about the conclusion. So in the end, Ruggiero ends up with Bradamante. I keep saying Bradamante or Bradamante. I think it's Bradamante. Ruggiero first converts to Christianity, and he's in love with Bradamante as she's in love with him, but unfortunately the prince of Constantinople has been betrothed to Bradamante, and his name is Leo. And so then Leo enters into this combat to win the hand of Bradamante, learns that Ruggiero is the one he has been in conflict with, and he just has so much respect for Ruggiero that he decides to just allow Bradamante to marry Ruggiero, and, he just calls off the battle. It also helps that Marfisa pretends that Ruggiero and Bradamante had been engaged, when in fact this never happened, but Marfisa helps Ruggiero and Bradamante to come together, and of course their descendants are the Este family. I've already introduced the Este family. Hippolytus of Este was a major patron of Ariosto, and therefore it is, he kind of creates this story, this mythological story, to praise his patron. As for Agramante, who is the Saracen king, I believe he is the African king. Ronaldo ends the siege, the Saracens are defeated. There is Brandemart, who is killed before the Christians have victory. Of course, there has to be this Olivier figure who dies before there is victory. Olivier was Roland's friend, and there's a clear reference to the Song of Roland in this scene. Orlando mourns the death of Brandemart, and of course, Fleur-de-Lis mourns the death of her lover. But honestly, these characters were pretty pathetic, so killing them off at the end, I wasn't really that moved. But it is still a beautiful funeral scene where they send off the body and the body is burned on the sea, you know how it is in the medieval epics. Isabel is being pursued by Rodomonte, who is another Saracen, and basically she just seduces him into killing her by cutting off her head so that she can reunite with Zerbino, who had already been killed. So it's a weird kind of thing where, I don't say it's weird, I mean, she basically prevents herself from getting raped by this crazy Rodomonte. So Isabel drinks this potion, which she pretends is going to, prevent her from dying. So then Rodomonte thinks that if he cuts her head off, she won't actually die, but of course it's all a joke, and so she does die, and then she can reunite with her lover. So yeah, there is a closure, but I was really surprised when about 80% into my Kindle book, the story just ended. It's like, Bradamante and Ruggiero get married, the end. Like literally the next page, it was over, and I was so surprised. So yeah, I thought this was a really great experience. I would love to read the original book, Orlando Innamorato, because I think that I would get a lot out of it to read that first and then to reread the Furioso. There are so many storylines to keep track of. There's a lot of assumptions in this book about like what the reader already knows about these characters. Like, for example, I had no idea, like I said, that Ronaldo had a wife. But there you have it. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.